Hello and welcome to this video where we're going to talk about the classes and skills you can use to actually get going in PoE 2. Now, these are just a rough guide for you, plus if there's any changes or anything, they might not be able to be worked in the exact same way. This is without knowing what we're going to know in like 2 days. Or whenever you're watching it. This is pre-launch of early access, so GGG could change things, could change numbers, could change slight mechanics or anything like that, so do check. But at the moment we should have a rough guide on how we're going to launch. They could balance it out depending on how everything works, so keep that in mind, and we'll get into all the different classes and skills you can use for those classes, and some ascendancies I recommend as we go. First, we're going to look at the mercenary. Very, very interesting. It is going to be interesting to see how it plays and how people actually react to it. But we'll get into the skills. Now, I've highlighted this because it's the important skill, I reckon, for the mercenary style I've got down. Rapid shot. Now you build up heat, then you get to a max heat, then you also build up the grenade damage per heat. So maximum heat on this particular one, I have seen at 17. So depending on what that number is, you times this by the damage, and then we get some extra damage on our grenades. So we're using this as our primary armor breaking build. Armor breaking skill. So with it we do added fire, you can have arrow explosion, increased armor break, and many bolts, if they're obviously in there and work the way they seem to. You can change it up, because obviously any damage conversion and stuff, just change it to whatever you convert it to, but obviously 60% is going to fire already, so we then increase the fire damage. On the tree we're going to be doing some fire damage, and pretty much this is going to be a fire based, but that's our armor breaker. We also throw in gas grenades with explosive shot to ignite them. So gas grenades have a detonated tag, or can be detonated tag, and explosive shot is a detonator, so we're using those two in combination with concentrate effect and any duration. It does last 2 seconds, the gas grenades. If we look it up, the gas grenades do last 2 seconds, and you can fire 3 uses. If you're not getting them out enough before they all explode, so you put in more duration, that way you get more out there. You explosive shot, they all go up. So we're doing big impact damage on that. You can do some like AOE and stuff on that, depending on how you're using it. If you're just using it as extra added damage to sort of get the finishing touches on the enemy, then we also then change that to cluster grenade when we're later on, and then we drop the detonator because it doesn't need to be detonated. We lessen the duration. We pretty much use it as a instant grenade, and it goes bam, 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 bam. And obviously cooldowns on the tree, we're doing cooldowns, we're doing reload speeds on any of the skills we can, any of the tree we can. Cooldown, recovery, and reload speed will be important. AOE as well, if you can get some on the tree, will be handy. But our big point is our weapon swap. We can do this on a weapon swap. Our high velocity rounds. So obviously you just do whatever up until we get enough weapons and gear and everything. You don't obviously have to, I must use 2 weapons. This is purely once we get a big hitter and then a fast bam, 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 bam with a quick reload crossbow. So our big hitter is high velocity rounds with brutality if we go non-LE, close combat, exploit weakness, and then anything else that we tie in there for the damage, that should be enough to get the impact. The other skills you can do if you do the LE is weapon LE damage, and then you support that with added whatever damage you're doing, probably fire, and LE focus. So that is and it does like 150% or something more damage to broken armored monsters. So we're breaking the armor with a rapid shot, and then we're gas grenading for extra damage, and then either when you want to, or when we got a big tough guy that's hard to take down, break his armor, pull out the heavy velocity, close range, we are just wabam. That's the gameplay. That high velocity round is going to fire like 3 bolts or something. If we look at the high velocity round, 6 bolts. And 150% more damage, and we're doing a massive damage increase. So this is our just sledgehammer, bam, for a tanky boss or a tanky rare or even a magic, since everything's going to be a little harder. Now you can use auras and everything. It just depends on how much spirit, how quickly we can get the spirit. Now, the spirit is pretty much any of our auras. So obviously the ash with the fire damage and everything. But yeah, these auras will take spirit. The spirit, obviously, we start at 0. Unless they double back and change their mind before launch, we're meant to start at 0. So we build up our spirit. So I can't tell you to run any of these until we know how quickly we get them. Because obviously we're going to run Herald of Ash probably, I'd say, Act 2 out of the first 3 acts. No later than Act 3, I expect Tier 4 to be pretty much, you got a bunch of different auras available if you want. The other stuff, it depends on how it plays. You can use some curses for weaknesses and all that, like vulnerability. But yeah, the main skills, we are doing bam, 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 with rapid fire, gas grenades, explosive shot on it to go boom all in one bit. And then we're smacking with a sledgehammer with high velocity rounds. So that's, and I forgot one thing, we can use Glacial Bolt with Fortress. Fortress makes it a circle instead of a wall. The thinking in this is that we create a circle around us, either after we've rapid shot or before, depending on the cooldown of the heat. Then we gas grenade, it stays in the little thing, people can't run away. Everything explodes in the little circle. So you can add Glacial Bolt with Fortress, just try to contain everything. That's a little extra bit that you can do there. Just Glacial Bolt, keep everything contained so they get smacked by everything. So let's go on to the next one. Next one I'll talk about is actually the Warrior. Now we have a look at the Warrior. I went with a Donkey Kong Warrior, which is the Titan. We're going to be a dual two-handed Donkey Kong, smashing and stunning things. Now, AoE, leap slamming to move, just smash the ground like a gorilla. But, Hammer of Gods, massive cooldown, massive damage. That is our sledgehammer that we're going to use. Area of effect, close combat, impact, shockwave. We can use life leech on it, possibly. Because the amount of damage that we're going to do to it, the 3% leech might actually be pretty much like constant upflow on bosses. Melee fizz damage or brutality, we can run with Hammer of the Gods. I'll have it up here so you can read it. Yeah, it's one or two-handed maces, so it's perfect. 1307. Now we can just have this on a weapon swap as well, with just straight out damage, no speed, no nothing, just any damage numbers on some maces. We just don't care about speed, don't care about any defensive stats, anything that helps us attack more or anything. We just have a two-handed maces using that skill on the path tree, which allows us to do that because we're going to be strength stacking as a warrior. And we just pull this out, boom, down with the Hammer of Gods. Like, this is our just bam, one shot things skill. So keep that in mind. Weapon swap, just straight damage. Forget any quality of life on a weapon. Slow as anything, it doesn't matter. Just boom, drop it on the monster. Then we'll go to our more everyday skills. So we're using Armor Breaker because Armor Breaker looks like it will be important for the warrior due to the stuns and the ability to actually do more damage and everything. So we use Armor Breaker with Break Endurance, Increased Armor Break, and Splinter. So pretty much just doubling all our Armor Break skills. So if we look at Break Endurance, there's an Armor Breaker for you. And we go to be a support gem, obviously. Break Endurance. Now, 20% chance to gain a energy charge when supported, fully break the enemy's armor, which we're obviously breaking the armor because we're doing a break. Explosion when we fully break the armor. Now you can change some of these up. If you go like corrosion, so we're like melting the guy's armor and stuff, you can change it up if you want to go a more toxic version. But this will be our armor breaking skill. Sunder will be our main skill. And also Shockwave Totem. So we're doing double damage with those two. Shockwave Totem can, way I understand it, if we go Shockwave, yep, Shockwave Totem, Earthquake's jagged ground erupts when in this slam. Now, the jagged ground is obviously an AoE thing. It does have its own little bit, but we'll skip that. So we got jagged ground as a support, bleed chance, blood, lust, and deep cuts. So our Sunder is doing a bunch of bleed, and our Shockwave Totem has puncture, which does extra damage to bleeding enemies and duration to keep it up longer, and the slam should then trigger our jagged ground to explode. So pretty much you're going around exploding everything. Leap slamming to break up the pattern by like just going around the map, boom 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 boom. AoE on the tree, we're doing anything that's got fizz damage, anything that's got AoE. Bleeding, I'm not sure how much is actually on it, but we do have the sockets on our skill, so increase, decrease the bleed chance based on sockets or based on tree. And then obviously Hammer of the Gods is our big one hit punch. Auras, pretty much anything that keeps you alive. With the warrior, you're probably going to do a physical based, and then you want things that keep you alive, and you could run a bunch of curses to bring things down. The sort of spirit is up to you. A lot of them, not really necessary. They're more add on top for this warrior. Pretty much you're just maxing out your damage. You're going to have health based defense because you're going to be strength stacking, and strength stacking then increases your life. Energy shield might come into it, so we'll have to play with that because the energy shield might be an important factor. And then we just need enough mana to be able to use our skills. So that is the warrior, a big whack skill with armor breaking, stunning, and leaping, and slamming, and sunder, and all kinds of fun. So let's move on to the sorceress. The sorceress is going to be the elemental one. If I go back in my notes, it is Storm Weaver is the one I chose. With Lightning Storm, Ball Lightning, Archmage, Sigil of Power, and possibly Herald of Thunder. The only reason why I go possibly is these tags here. Melee and Bow. Now, that could, because the others don't actually have it. If we have a look at the other heralds. So, depending on whether these are just extra tags or you need to use a melee weapon or you need to use a bow, because the staff, I'm not sure what that's classified under or what it will be classified under, because obviously we need hands on the game before we can guarantee certain wording, certain everything. So just keep that in mind. Herald of Thunder, if we can use it. So Lightning Storm, we're running AoE, more duration, coursing current, added lightning, and lightning pen. Pretty much we are trying to get as much shock and shock chance on everything using these skills. Ball lightning, shock chance or conduction, overcharge, wild shards, which the one we're in the preview, it randomly shoots out 8 projectiles all around you at like a 20% chance to do that. Slower projectiles, and you can add volley. Slower projectiles because the actual ball lightning, as it passes targets, it triggers its attack 0.04 seconds, I believe, it attacks people. So it's not just boom, 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 boom. So we slow it down, we get more attacks per creature. And if we're in a boss situation, that means the ball lightning is on the boss more and longer. So all good. Archmage, because it boosts our lightning damage based on our total mana. And also Sigil of Power increases our buff. So we're standing in Lightning Storm, Archmage is building up as we're using all our skills. Sigil of Power is under us, and we're building that up all 4 stages to do more damage, and we're just taking lightning, just shocking everything, lightning everything, just zapping everything. So pretty much a lightning based sorceress, and that should be in the realms of sort of a Diablo 4 ball lightning sork. Depending on how balanced the early access is at start, this might actually be a little broken in how much lightning combined skills work together. Depending on the balance. It could be balanced and it all works in synergy and you're just building, smack. Building, smack. This is more of a sustain. There's no real one hit wham. This is more, we cast, we're doing damage, nothing better come near us or they're going to get hit. So the sorceress doesn't have that one hit, but it will be quite powerful. And the only thing will be the defensive ability versus mana, because we need to try to mana stack as much as possible whilst keeping the life up, so we can just take those hits and possibly mitigate the damage by taking it as a LE damage. So Cloak of Flames is a great example. It takes X amount of physical, puts over as fire. So we might have to do something like that where we're mitigating the physical into a LE damage, just so our life pool doesn't get depleted in just a big one hit. Now we've talked about the sorceress. We'll talk about the witch. The witch is interesting. You can pretty much play the witch without minions, although the actual sort of ascendancies, you would pretty much need to be a fire damage taken as X, or spread it out, or max out your fire damage resistance up to 90, plus get all the other mitigations for everything else. to use the Infernalist, and you just go a fire-based Sorc, really. Or you can go a Blood Mage, where I would recommend a minion-based build, just because you are using life and mana. So having extra things doing damage, and any sort of leeching you can get whilst you're not getting attacked, then increases the ability for you to overleech your life, and then have a double life pool, and then you obviously stay alive. So our main skill will pretty much, we're trying to do a chaos based, but obviously we're flexible. Essence Drain with faster casting, added chaos, poison chance, and withering touch. We are using skeletal snipers with skeletal arsonists with Infernal Legion. Now, the skeletal snipers, we can command them to shoot gas grenades. We then tell our arsonists to go blow themselves up and blow up the grenades. Now, this might work nicely, or there might be a little clunkiness to it. We just need to play it out. But that's our trigger. Our arsonists are coming in and blowing up the gas grenades. Clerics are going to be, do we need them, versus the sort of keeping everything alive. So we might need to slip in some clerics. We are also going to use Raise Zombie only with power charges, with Perpetual Charge, Feeding Frenzy, Last Grasp, and potentially Minion Pack, depending on the actual implementation of it once it's in the actual game. To get our power charges, we are using Bone Cage with multiple charges, Brutality, Life Leech, possibly Splinter, and possibly Spell Echo, depending on how they play together and whether they can actually play together. And we're also using Skeletal Warriors Meat Shield as literally what the support says. They're going to be a meat shield. And we're going to have to pick up orbs and stuff and build up our life. But we're going to try and probably do a mind over matter, life leeching, spell leeching 10%, I believe, if I recall correctly. If I look at the ascendancy, wherever I put it, 10% of spell damage leached as life. So we're going to try and get as much spell damage leached, and then we're going to also build up our crit, so 1% crit damage per 20 life. So we're going to try a life stack. That's probably max life, so our overflow won't count. But the general idea is that we're going to stand behind our minions. Minions are going to do their thing. Going to raise the zombie, bind a spectre when we get a big powerful guy. Drop pretty much whatever we need to get that bound spectre. And then we're going to use the snipers and arsonists in sort of situation where we got a tank. So they go up, they blow up. The zombies, once we got a power charge, because they get empowered, they get more damage, they're just better. And then we're going to use them. They last 20 seconds, they do a bunch of damage. We're sitting back, we're straining, and we're probably got blasphemy if we can afford it, with a bunch of curses on it. If we can't, we just use whatever curses we can get. So that's a witch. That's pretty much a minions do a lot of the damage. We sit back and we're just sort of degenning or weakening the enemies for our minions. Now we have the ranger. What I went with was actually a lightning arrow based ranger. Now lightning arrow, lightning rod, and shock chain arrow will be our main skills. Lightning arrow with faster projectiles, multiple projectiles, conduction, coursing current, and lightning pen. So we're building up shocks with that. Our lightning rod, we're firing, it sticks in the ground. Anything that chains, it then shocks, well, it doesn't shock things, but it fires out a charge to actually attack. And then we're using chain, AoE, and shock chance on the lightning rod. And then, because we're building up shocks, we can either cast on shock or just cast ourselves the shock chain arrow, which if you have a shocked enemy, it targets it first and then it will chain to every shocked enemy. So if we got a field of shock, it can chain up to 10 times, just, and then we want to try to just cover the field in that sort of stuff. So we got added lightning, overcharge. The fact that we can only do one support is a bit, which do we use for which skill? We can switch and swap and all that. So that's probably got more that you can add to it. Especially if you use cast on shock, you probably just use it as extra clearance. Then we use combat frenzy, which is a persistent skill, so we need our spirit for it, and we get it on our electrocution because we're not doing freeze or pinning. And then we can also use snipe, which gets us a frenzy charge on crit. So if we're not critting, we're not actually going to be using snipe because obviously that's completely useless to us. So lightning arrow will use the Deadeye, and the Deadeye is obviously going to move around, shoot, move, and pretty much stay out of combat and let the combat happen in front of it, around it, and it'll be a keep away sort of style. So that's what I suggest for the Ranger, a more keep away sort of style where everything's getting shocked or electrocuted in front of us and we're moving around and attacking it and just keeping distance. Now, the Monk. We're actually going to go Toxic Growth with the Monk. We are going to use Plague Bearer, which is a persistent skill. Also, Herald of Plague. The Plague Bearer builds up toxic damage and then fires out chaos. Chaos damage with the Plague Bearer. And then the Toxic Growth, more duration, faster projectiles, wild shards for the AoE, 20% chance, 8 projectiles in a circle around us. AoE, Withering Touch. So we're going to pretty much be a monk, which is causing chaos. We're also going to take the Acolyte of Chelula. We're going to have a Darkness Shield. We're going to make sure we got Chaos Res. You could probably sort of mitigate damage to Chaos with this Ascendancy. Mana Leech is instant. Mana Leech also recovers ES. We can also do the Breach Shards, which gives us life, damage, and mana gain Breach Shards on the ground. So, as a monk, we are causing toxic damage. The darkness skills, all that, all play a part of keeping us safe, plus it's like chaos base. So we're playing into that. The other version you can go is full elemental, and the other ascendancy. You go lightning and cold, and just smack things and try to get ailments on them. But the darkness monk, we got toxic growth. Now these skills and everything, because we can only use one per character, you can swap them around whichever way you feel. There might be some that are missed because obviously we are looking purely at what we believe will be in the game or what we've been told has a good chance of being in the game. Numbers can change, so keep that in mind. But let me know what you think. Are you going to play the Merc, the Witch, the Warrior, Sorceress, Ranger, or the Monk? And which do you think will be the best? Which do you think will be probably the most unbalanced? Or which do you think will be just hands down, without any bugs, glitches or anything, just the best? So, hadn't been as long as I thought it would, but I'm sure you're tired of my voice. hit all those buttons, and I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.